We all already know about Ultimate Custom Night, this game where the mechanics of a classic SNES are pushed to the limit, even surpassing in this sense the powerful SNES too. However, even though this game is very well known, it's strange to think that its Plus version has gone somewhat unnoticed, so let's find out why this is, and compare it to the original Ultimate Custom Night. Alright, as we know, both fangames will have at least 50 animatronics, so yes, there are quite a few characters to compare, but before that, I want to emphasize some general aspects. First of all, this fangame is not going to be very faithful to the original game, not even in the animatronics we have to choose from. Within the custom night, since they removed 17 of them to introduce 17 new ones. For example, in the nights you no longer find characters like JJ Puppet with the Dead, Golden Freddy, among others. Although this doesn't mean they were completely removed, since for example, in this new custom night, although Funtime Chica is no longer present, we can see her in a minigame similar to those in Sister Location. In my opinion, this is much better than the odd monthly scenes from the original Ultimate Custom Night, except for the Golden Freddy one, but that's just me. There are also other minigames and surprises that we will see later on. Likewise, it's worth noting that in the new menu of this fangame, there's an interesting new option. And this is the store option, which was supposed to be available in a new update, which as of the date I'm recording this, hasn't been released yet. And that's a shame, but it's also a problem when playing the game, since I suspect that we're going to have to use fast coins here. And why do I say this? Because when you play, these coins are present, but they're not very useful, only to pay the 5 fast coins to Rockstar Freddy. In the original scene, you could buy the dead coin or animatronic plushies to defend yourself. And those mechanics, instead of being improved here, have been wasted on the possibility of an in-game shop, changing the subject in the extras. We won't have access for now, but what it offers us is of vital importance, so we'll come back to it in a moment. On the other hand, something to be thankful for is that there's a Spanish translation. At the moment, when explaining the animatronics mechanics, these messages switch between English and Spanish with the C key. As for the challenges, these have also changed for obvious reasons, you know, new animatronics and all that. So let's get into the nights already. Something worth highlighting is the offices. If we remember, in Ultimate Custom Night we have 4 of these which are unlocked with the score we get. The same thing happens in Ultimate Custom Night, plus however here we have 6 of them. Likewise, in the original, the offices, as we could notice, were a kind of mix between the games, with one in particular being dominant. For example, in the default office, it had the desk from Snap 1, the box with the toy animatronics from Snap 3, Ennard's mask from Sister Location, etc. But in Ultimate Custom Night Plus, this changed. We have 6 offices, each one inspired by its corresponding game. That is, we have an office inspired by Snap, 1, 2, 3, 4 Sister Location and Pizzeria Simulator, which all look really good graphically. This is definitely an update, but the changes don't just stop at the visuals. We also have a big one, and I think it totally harms Ultimate Custom Night Plus. As we remember, in the original game we had the ability to use a power generator, a heater, a global music box, among other things. However, this Ultimate Custom Night Plus simply doesn't have it, and this is a point that really goes against it. Since these mechanics help the player plan a more elaborate strategy about which system to use and when, depending on which animatronics were active. The only thing similar to that left in Plus was the fan, which, if you turn it off, you save energy and make less noise. But that's it, there's no complexity in that sense. Likewise, the duck system that was in the original game has also been removed, so another mechanic that gave the game more variety has been discarded in Plus, and I say this sarcastically in case it's not obvious. The point of a Super Nintendo Entertainment System Plus is to add things, but here it just keeps removing them without adding anything new to replace them or make it more entertaining. In fact, the ventilation system has been simplified. Now, only 2 routes remain for the animatronics to reach the office, instead of the previous 3. It's not just about constantly removing or nerfing mechanics. The vents visible in the original game's office have been removed entirely. These don't exist, so the only thing we can close in the office are the doors, nothing else. Instead, there are these 2 ducts on each side so that the animatronics coming through the vents can enter. And of course, let's not forget that the time has been reduced. Don't be fooled by the timer at the top right. It actually ends in 3 minutes because every 30 seconds an hour passes and it moves to the next minute. This makes the game easier to beat, but much easier. But well, not all the changes are bad. We have interesting minigames, right? 2 of these minigames basically show us the perspectives of the children who were attacked by William Afton inside the pizzeria. As I mentioned earlier, the Fountain Chica minigame is very similar to Night 3 of Sister Location, where you repair Fountain Frail and doesn't add anything new. Since even that situation where the cupcake leaves is very similar to what happens to Bon in Sister Location. Even so, It's interesting to see what it would have been like to play with Fountain Chica, and definitely, I still think I would have liked to play this in the original Ultimate Custom Night. But not only in minigames, but also secret scenes that you can get by reaching a certain score. Here I highlight two scenes. The first one is Ditophobia. After completing the challenge, we can see how a person escapes from the Smash 4 room through a vent, realizing that there's a hallucinogenic gas inside. Does this mean that all the animatronics we see are just part of our mind and don't really exist? Really? I really like this implementation because it even made me think that this last incursion, that Knight's Blues, is part of the imagination of one of William Afton's victims. If you think about it, there are several inconsistencies. That's why I don't think this is the answer. It's just a reference to the intriguing snuff book. The second scene happens when we finish 5020, where a mysterious being tells us that they know us and that we will never get out of here. Afterwards, we see the body of what's left of Scraptrap. Honestly, this scene is shocking and very terrifying because of how grotesque it is. And yes, that would be all, just from the custom night, because there's still one night left with a secret scene to discover. Do you remember the extras? Well, besides checking out the minigames, beta rooms, and behind the scenes, it's in the jump scares where Puppet is found. But here's the weird part. Puppet isn't in the custom night, so what is he doing here? Simple. He also wants revenge, so he'll give us access to a secret night, the Nightmare Night. Here, Puppet will talk to us, he'll tell us he wants revenge, and that's how the night will begin. Inside we'll face Bonnet, Yendo, Phantom Mangle, Nightmare, and obviously Puppet. The most challenging part of this night is understanding the mechanics of the animatronics. Because we aren't given much information, the only thing we get is a hint on the game over screen, but nothing else. And of course, the most challenging thing is Puppet. He will go through the whole office and keep going. To avoid him, we have to lift the camera so he doesn't attack us. However, sometimes his music fails, and sometimes you can still hear his music even though he's already gone, or his music has already stopped, but he's still in the office. That's what makes this night unfair. That being said, and after the Nightmare Night, we have a new scene. Here we see how the pizzeria from Pizzeria Simulator ended up. Everything is destroyed and we see Scraptrap who, as no one expected, wakes up. So what is the canon ending? With all due respect to Puppet, but I would like it to be the 50-20. The canon ending is a more dramatic ending, and it gives a good closure. Still, despite its ups and downs, the Nightmare Night is entertaining and very much appreciated. As we have seen, overall the game has changed a lot, in mechanics, in cutscenes, in minigames, in several things. So, let's see if these changes were good for the game, or if, on the contrary, they affected it negatively. As I said at the beginning, in the custom night, there are 17 animatronics that were removed to add new ones. So we can't compare these unless they appeared in the original game, or vice versa. For example, even though Puppet hadn't appeared, it did show up in its secret night. Let's start with our favorite bear. Freddy has a similar mechanic but approaches from the right side instead of the left. Regarding jump scares, I can say that I like the original more, maybe because there's a lack of motion distortion, but it looks visually much better in the UCM, in the original game. If we saw a Bonnie doll on the desk, it meant we couldn't look at Pirate Cove, because if we did, Bonnie would scream at us. However, in Plus, this changed, and Bonnie has a mechanic very similar to Freddy. He approaches from the left and scares us like this. This makes it really hard for me. In one, there's no jump scare. In the other, his jump scare feels unnatural. You'll see what I mean. For now, it's a tie. Chica appears in Custom Night but doesn't have a jump scare or attack us. She only affects our cameras. In the Plus version, Foxy now has a music box, whereas in the original you just controlled him by watching his camera. When it comes to jump scares, both of them move in a really crazy way, and neither one stands out over the other, so it's another tie. Now let's talk about Fredbear and Golden Freddy. Since they look a lot alike, let's compare their jump scares. We know that in the original game, Fredbear's jump scare is a secret, since we have to use the death coin on Withered Golden Freddy to see it. However, in Ultimate Custom Night Plus, he will appear in camera too waiting to attack us. Regarding their jump scares, the first one is more elaborate, so the original game wins in that aspect. Withered Freddy makes his debut in this Plus version. Curiously, he doesn't attack us. He just watches at the right door until we use the mask, a missed opportunity. Withered Bonnie has the same mechanic in both versions, and his jump scare is very similar. However, in the first one, it's just a portable network graphics with a movement effect. On the other hand, in Plus, he is actually animated, which is why the latter wins. Withered Chica has definitely changed. In the original, she went through the vent, but in Plus, she has the same mechanic as Withered Bonnie. The jump scares in both versions aren't great, but the original is worse, so I'll pick Plus. Withered Foxy also debuts here. He comes down the left hallway, so we listen for his laugh to close the door. Then he does his jump scare. Toy Freddy went from being a gamer to coming through the vents, his jump scare. He's handled much better in the original Ultimate Custom Night, so this one wins. Toy Bonnie has the same mechanics in both games, however, just like with Toy Freddy, the original handles better his jump scares. Toy Chica no longer behaves like Toy Bonnie, but now comes through the right vent, so you have to use the mask or the laser to stop her. And her jump scares? Both are great, but the original illusion is still a better implemented animation. Mangle also stays the same, coming through the vent and getting on the office ceiling. Compared to the original, the jump scares lack impact, while the Plus version goes a bit overboard but is well executed. This time, Balloon Boy wins with the same flashlight blocking mechanic. The original enters via the vent duct, the Plus version through the ventilation system, and neither has jump scares. Springtrap also stays the same, coming through the ventilation system. Regarding his jump scares, they are very similar. Even so, in my opinion, the original handles them a bit better. Phantom Freddy did change a lot from the original. He appears little by little until he gives us jump scares. The only way to avoid him is with the flashlight. On the other hand, in Plus, he appears walking, and we need to put on the mask so he doesn't attack us with a jump scare. It's obvious, Plus is totally superior and will win. Phantom Chica, Phantom Foxy, and Phantom Puppet are not in the original game. Here it's interesting, because Phantom Chica uses a mechanic similar to Phantom Freddy in the original game. She appears little by little until she materializes. On the other hand, Phantom Foxy has the same mechanic as Nightmare Marianne. We have to avoid putting the cursor where he appears, otherwise he will attack us. Phantom Puppet is very easy to avoid. Just don't look at camera 8 and everything will be fine. For his part, Nightmare Freddy keeps the same mechanic. Just get rid of the Freddles so Nightmare Freddy doesn't attack us. In his jump scares, the original is still the best, since he doesn't exaggerate the movements and it feels natural. Nightmare Bonnie. Honestly, it's a disappointment. In Ultimate Custom Night Plus, he only comes into the office to randomly open and close the doors, while in the original, he can even attack us. Nightmare Chica in the original is one of the secret animatronics in the game, where we see her mouth slowly closing. In Plus, we need to watch for her cupcake and click it when it appears. The truth is that the jump scare in the original completely surpasses the one in Plus, showing Nightmare Chica as a beast with excellent animation, Nightmare Foxy. He's also a disappointment. In Plus, he enters the office just to steal your power. And yes, that's it. Nightmare Fredbear in Plus copies the mechanic from Nightmare Chica in the original, since we see his mouth close if the temperature is too low. On the other hand, in the original, we avoid him with the help of the left door. Here, both jump scares are similar, and I don't find one better than the other, so it ends up as a tie. Plush Trap changed from a hidden animatronic that could attack us to a character who just removes your mask if you miss his movement. It's unimpressive. Honestly, a total disappointment. Phantom Freddy doesn't have an equivalent in the original game. Here in Plus, he'll send Bond to your office, and if he gets in, you're done for. Value that. He keeps the same mechanic of listening to where he's coming from, based on the direction of his music in his jump scare. You have to admit that in Plus, he's better worked on, with a more polished and less simple animation. Phantom Foxy has been nerfed. Before we could see him on the cameras, and as soon as his show started, we had to be watching him. Also, the showtime could be reset. Now instead, he appears in the office. And when it's showtime, we'll be given more time to keep an eye on him. Likewise, in the jump scares, we can see better work in Plus, once again, with Circus Baby. Here, it's also disappointing. In the original game, she appears in the right hallway and we must buy her plushie to avoid her. But in Plus, she only takes our oxygen, leaving us blind if the temperature is low and nothing else happens, leaving the original with only its jump scare. Henner, however, is a success. Previously, he came through the vent to the office, but now he'll only appear if the temperature gets too high, coming through the vent without any blockage. In the jump scares, we can see that the original is once again a moving portable network graphics. On the other hand, Plus has a very good animation, showing us how he can open and close his face, like the other Funtime animatronics. Obviously this one wins. Electrobab here in Plus is easy to avoid on the cameras, with a control shock. No, it doesn't have a counterpart in the original game. The Minirinas do. In the original, they were more of a hidden, annoying animatronic you couldn't avoid. Here, however, you can make them fall. Regardless, they don't have jump scares. So let's move on to the next one. Rockstar Freddy is just as annoying in both versions, never getting tired of asking us for 5 dogs. Fast coins. Both jump scares are very similar, so it's a tie. Rockstar Bonnie keeps a similar mechanic. In both cases, if we don't find his guitar in the cameras when he gives us a signal, we'll be brutally attacked. Speaking of which, both jump scares also remain similar. Rockstar Chica, on the other hand, is very different. In the original, we had to move a wet floor sign to avoid her. In the Plus version, there just can't be too much heat. The jump scare in the original looks better, more realistic, more believable, therefore that one would win. Rockstar Foxy is still the same fox who can help us when we touch his parrot, but he can also attack us with his jump scares. It's curious to say this, but surprisingly, in the Plus version, the way he attacks us looks more natural. Both animations are acceptable, but just because of this simple yet vital feature, the Plus version is a little better. Lefty in the original is calm with the global music box. However, now you just have to avoid having an extreme temperature. In the Plus version's jump scare, you can see Lefty with more movement. That's why this one would win. It offers a bit more than the original without overdoing it. Scrap Trap was random and came through the vent in the original, but in Plus he only appears with a lot of noise. Both jump scares are similar, so it's a tie. Walter Freddy in Plus. It seems like the mechanic from Foxy in the original game has been copied a bit, since he appears piece by piece inside the office. On the other hand, in the original, he came through the ventilation system, here again. Her jump scare in the original is just a moving portable network graphics, so in the Plus version, it's even worse. Scrap Baby keeps her mechanic where you have to watch her if she moves. Though her jump scare is good in both games, it's much better in the Plus version. This is one of the best jump scares in this fan game, showing us how, finally, Scrap Baby uses her claw for something, and that's to attack us. Happy Frog, Mr. Hippo, and Pig Patch originally entered through the vents, but in the Plus version, each has a plushie in the office. When they appear, we must put on the mask. If we look at each of their jump scares, we see that while they do have some changes, they're not very spectacular to be honest, so it would end up being a three-way tie. Security Puppet changed from decoration to animatronic, and if we don't stop it, it will keep making noise all night. Its description says it can attack, but that hasn't happened to me. Music Man keeps his mechanic where if we make noise, he gets angry and attacks us. Here, the original game still makes the mistake of using portable network graphics images, which is an easy win for Usenet Plus Shadow. Freddy is a new character who only causes hallucinations if we don't see him at night. Similarly, the Paper Balls are new, make noise, but can't attack us. Like Helpy, in Plus he'll make noise until we touch his nose. In the original game, he could trigger his junk scare if we didn't find him in the office in time. Endo01. He's a new endoskeleton in Ultimate Custom Night, but he rarely appears. It's barely worth noting since he lacks a junk scare and only cuts off your ventilation system. On the other hand, Candy Cadet does have a junk scare, so you'd better not touch him. And we would end here if it weren't for the Nightmare Night, so let's sum it up. Puppet appears here with a new mechanic. He moves around the office until he leaves, unlike the original version, which depended on his music box. For junk scare, since it's simple in Plus and just a portable network graphics in the original, would that make it a tie? Puppet would change from a pink rabbit moving around the office to just standing still and staring at us. Although in both cases we need to touch its nose to avoid it, in the case of Plus, it uses a very simple animation again, and the original is very wild. Once again, a tie. Phantom Mangle can't attack us, but it's interesting that in both versions it makes noise to bother us. Since it doesn't have a counterpart in the original, it's not a big deal. We avoid this by moving the cameras up and down. Interestingly, it can't cause a nightmare game over. Now it attacks due to too much noise, while originally it attacked if the door wasn't closed. This jump scare in Plus still has the same flaw, it's very simple. A more polished jump scare like in the original is much better, by far. And finally, even though this isn't really an animatronic, Diddy at least deserved to be mentioned. She's exclusive to this game. Also, she had a somewhat unnecessary change in appearance in CN+. Now her colors look a bit strange. Something interesting is that when she appears, balloons will also show up now. Okay, to recap, here's what we have. When it comes to junk scares, it's very divided, because some are better, others stay the same, and for others, the quality goes down. But as we all know, this is purely something visual. Still, it's fun to compare what happens with this Plus version of Ultimate Custom Night. In fact, instead of adding, it seems to take things away and makes the game much easier. Too easy, I would say. You can beat 50-20 mode in just a few tries with power-ups, and I don't think that's bad. Removing animatronics and adding others, but if you're going to simplify their mechanics or make one animatronics mechanic practically the same as another's, it's better not to change it and just keep it the same. Fast coins became useless because of Rockstar Freddy's decision. The various systems and ducts were removed, eliminating the duct system and greatly reducing time. They simply cut content to make Ultimate Custom Night much simpler. But of course, let's also go over the good things. New offices, cool minigames that reveal more lore, and a fight-in aimer that, while imperfect, offers something new and challenging. If you ask me, Ultimate Custom Night Plus doesn't deserve that name. This game cuts a lot of content and adds very little compared to what it removes. If you ask me, the original wins by far. Still, I appreciate this fan game and its effort to give Ultimate Custom Night a new twist. It was handled excellently, and the game will be even more memorable for its impressive trailer. For what it ended up being, a game that promised to deliver more, but ironically ended up delivering less.